Look around you. Every screen you touch, every electric vehicle pulling up to a stoplight, every piece of advanced medical equipment keeping someone alive, and every precision missile sitting in a silo, they all share a single, fragile vulnerability. They rely on elements hidden deep within the earth. Welcome to the extraction abyss. For decades, the global economy looked at mining as a dirty, low-margin relic of the industrial age. We outsourced it. We forgot about it. To understand the geopolitics of tomorrow, we have to look closely at these materials. We call them critical minerals and rare earth elements: neodymium, dysprosium, lithium, cobalt. They aren't actually rare in terms of crustal abundance, but finding them in concentrations worth mining is incredibly difficult. Why do they matter so much? Because they possess unique magnetic, electrochemical, and luminescent properties that have no known substitutes. Neodymium makes the hyper-powerful permanent magnets that allow an electric vehicle motor to turn efficiently. Because terrestrial mining is a geopolitical minefield, the frontier of resource security is shifting to places where no state can claim territory: deep-sea exploration. Miles beneath the ocean surface, sitting on the abyssal plains, lie trillions of dollars worth of polymetallic nodules, small potato-sized rocks rich in manganese, nickel, and cobalt. Robotic rovers are already being tested to scrape the ocean floor. But even here, in the international waters of the high seas, the shadow of great power competition looms large. But here is the grand illusion of the critical mineral crisis. Pull a piece of rare earth ore out of the ground in California, or Australia, or Africa, and it is effectively useless. It's just dirt. The true power doesn't lie in who digs the rock up, it lies in who can refine it. Refining critical minerals is an environmental nightmare, requiring massive amounts of toxic acids, extreme heat, and specialized chemical engineering. It is an intricate, capital-intensive process that takes raw material and purifies it into 99.9% industrial-grade power. Once refined, these minerals must enter a sprawling, hyper-synchronized logistical lifeline. From processing plants, they travel via heavily guarded rail networks to specialized megaports, packed onto container ships destined for high-tech manufacturing hubs. Control over this supply chain isn't just about factory output, it's about control over global choke points. If a conflict breaks out, or if diplomatic ties fray, the physical transport of these minerals can be choked off instantly. A delay of just a few days at a critical port can paralyze assembly lines halfway across the globe, triggering a catastrophic economic domino effect. That brings us to the core of the geopolitical reality. While the rest of the world was enjoying the fruits of globalized, just-in-time supply chains, Beijing was playing the long game. As far back as 1992, Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping famously remarked, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." That wasn't just a statement, it was a multi-decade national doctrine. By heavily subsidizing state-owned enterprises, enduring the environmental toll of toxic refining, and intentionally undercutting global prices to force foreign competitors out of business, China successfully built a total manufacturing monolith. The result is a complex global web of consolidation. China doesn't just rely on the minerals within its own borders. Through aggressive foreign direct investment, infrastructure loans, and the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing has secured equity stakes in mines across Africa, South America's Lithium Triangle, and Southeast Asia. Cobalt from the Democratic Republic of Congo, lithium from Chile, nickel from Indonesia, nearly all of it routes back to Chinese soil for refining. This dominance has massive implications for the global fight against climate change. The entire Western strategy for a green transition, the plan to phase out fossil fuels, mandate electric vehicles, and transition to massive solar and wind grids, is completely dependent on Chinese factories. Every major lithium-ion battery megafactory relies on anodes, cathodes, and precursors manufactured almost exclusively in China. The uncomfortable truth that Western policymakers are forced to confront is that in trying to break our dependence on Middle Eastern oil, we have inadvertently traded it for a profound dependence on Chinese minerals. But what if the West just builds its own processing plants? It's not that simple. Dominance isn't just about physical factories, it's about intellectual property. Over the past 3 decades, Chinese universities and state labs have mapped out the innovation cartography of this entire sector. They hold the vast majority of global patents for processing techniques, chemical separation, and metallurgy. They have spent generations training the world's finest mineral engineers. If a Western company wants to start refining tomorrow, they often have to license the technology from China itself. And this goes far beyond consumer electronics and electric cars. This is a matter of hard national defense. The military-industrial complex runs on critical minerals. A single F-35 Lightning II stealth fighter requires over 900 pounds of rare earth materials to operate its radar, electronic warfare systems, and guidance controls. Precision-guided hypersonic missiles, nuclear submarines, night vision goggles, and satellite communication arrays all require advanced alloys that can survive extreme conditions. And China controls supply chains of most of these minerals. We've already seen a preview of how this leverage can be weaponized. When Beijing restricted gallium and germanium exports, shockwaves rattled the semiconductor industry. Look at the vulnerability map today. The United States, the European Union, Japan, and South Korea are blinking red. They are heavily dependent on imports for dozens of minerals vital to economic survival. In an era defined by a new Cold War and escalating tensions over Taiwan and trade tariffs, these vulnerabilities are no longer just supply chain headaches. They are profound national security blind spots that leave major economies exposed to economic coercion. The terrifying reality is how fast this vulnerability can ripple into everyday life. Our hyper-digitized civilization doesn't have a buffer. If access to refined minerals is restricted, the shock will feel instant. Microchip fabrication facilities will stall. The rollout of 5G and satellite internet infrastructure will freeze. Prices for consumer electronics will skyrocket out of reach, and the massive data centers fueling the global artificial intelligence boom will hit a physical wall. We are profoundly dependent on a fragile, single-source pipeline, and the foundation it sits on is beginning to crack. In response, the West is scrambling to build a defensive shield. Washington, Brussels, and Tokyo are suddenly enacting aggressive legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act and the Critical Raw Materials Act. The goal is clear: de-risk. This means implementing strict cybersecurity protocols to protect supply chain tracking, enforcing environmental and ethical sourcing laws to block tainted materials, and offering massive government subsidies to onshore manufacturing. The West is finally trying to build an economic fortress that can withstand geopolitical blackmail, but unwinding 30 years of dependency cannot happen overnight. The real battle to break the chain is happening through a new form of resource diplomacy. Alternative alliances are forming, like the Mineral Security Partnership, a coalition of Western nations aiming to fast-track supply routes outside of China's orbit. Huge investments are pouring into countries like Australia, Canada, Brazil, and parts of Africa to spin up processing hubs that bypass original monopolies. It is an uphill battle, fraught with regulatory delays and local opposition, but the wheels are turning. But the ultimate game changer won't just be finding new places to mine, it will be eliminating the need to mine altogether by building a closed loop. Enter the circular economy. Millions of electric vehicles sold today will reach the end of their lifespans over the next decade. If we can master the technology to recycle these massive battery packs with 100% efficiency, we can extract pure lithium, cobalt, and nickel from yesterday's waste instead of digging up tomorrow's earth. The geopolitics of critical minerals are actively rewriting the global balance of power. The era of cheap, globalized, carefree sourcing is over. We have entered a new epoch defined by resource nationalism, strategic alliances, and industrial warfare. The nations that thrive in this new century will not be those with the biggest armies or the most software engineers, but those that build resilient, stable, and collaborative resource networks. The race is on, the stakes could not be higher, and the map of tomorrow is being drawn right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.